podcast. Super pumped, man. I'm actually sitting down with Matt Ballard, man. He's a G, bro. He's a hustler, 25 years old, man. He was a personal trainer, owns his own business. I'm not going to go too much into who he is because that's what we're here for, to let him talk about who he is, the life that he built. And on Tier 1 Podcast, man, we get to know people through an interview, right? We're dreamers. We're people that continue to dream, build our lives. And in this podcast, you're going to get to learn about his life, things that he's battled, things that he's overcome, and why we do what we do to keep going to the top. So I'm pumped, Matt. Super pumped for you sitting down, dude. I'm grateful for you taking time out of your schedule, bro.
Oh, I appreciate it, man. It's a pleasure to be here, and have a lot of respect for you and John, and love the business that you guys created. And obviously appreciate your support with my business as well. So it's an honor to be here, man.
Yeah, bro. That's how the world goes around, man. You got to support each other and build that network. So sweet, man. Let's dive right into the podcast. So getting into it, man, I want the viewers to get to know you, man. I want to get to know the Matt Ballard, bro. So let's just first start back at the basics, bro. I want to know where you were born, where you grew up, and what was your childhood like? Do you feel like you had, quote unquote, what the American, normal childhood looked like? Was it different? Right. Did you go through some fucked up bullshit? Like, let's dive right into it, right, and get to know where you originated from.
For sure. Yeah, that's my favorite kind of conversation is deep right off the bat. But yeah, man, I'm from Illinois, Quincy, mainly, right on the river, small city over on the nose of the state, and big wrestling town, big basketball town. I mainly grew up with a single mom. She was 18 when she had me. My dad dropped out of high school, factory worker his entire life. He just passed away 2 years ago, which is one of the main reasons I started my company, just to kind of get off my ass. Just kind of had a fire under my ass, and instead of grieving, I think I just went to straight motivation. And so going back to the beginning, my mom working 2-3 jobs constantly. I obviously have a little sister who's 5 years younger than me, was taking care of her from maybe 7 or 8 years old, watching her all night while my mom worked and stuff, put herself through college. Dad was always there, but again, he worked in a factory from, 1 to 11, 1 p.m. to 11 p.m. So I only saw him on the weekends. Well, to keep a long story short, my family is on one side is bikers mainly, Harleys, my grandfather was a Hell's Angel. My grandmother was a pimp and owned a biker bar. So kind of a crazy family on one side that I was the closest to. And the other side, they were all, had degrees, married for 30 plus years, the white picket fence. So I got a good example on both sides. But for the most part, it was a solid childhood. There was a lot of mental and physical abuse for a while. And I won't get into too much detail about that, but that traumatized me to the point where I had to switch households. So when I switched households, that's really where I took off, because now I had like Wi-Fi. Now I had like a laptop. Now I could kind of dive into who I wanted to be and what I wanted to learn. And around 13, 14, that's what happened. I got, deep into wrestling, deep into powerlifting competitively. Started my first business at 15 doing fitness consulting. Did the website, logo, all that stuff myself. Spent like $25 on the entire thing. And shortly after that, I broke a few world records for my age and my weight for powerlifting. Obviously, that was, an accomplishment that I don't really care about to this day, but it's fun to say, 14, 15, 16 years old, doing raw powerlifting. And that gave me the confidence I needed to start those businesses where I, started the fitness consulting, doing strength coaching for 2 friends of mine who were D1 athletes. And those 2 helped me promote that to getting many more clients after that. And so I started selling t-shirts. And really with those t-shirts, I realized, oh shit, I can buy t-shirts for $4 of all sizes, slap a logo on it for $1 back then. And then I could sell these for $20, $25. And so that's what was happening. 1 second. There we go. And so I was like, shit, I could just start an apparel business, And what ended up happening was I made a logo, started selling shirts to like the wrestling team, the football team and stuff like that. And people were starting to wear it to the point where I had a lot of people in the school wearing my stuff. I was in the school about 2,200 kids, even though it was a smaller city. And that's when it all clicked. That was the first time it all clicked. Before with the fitness consulting, that was kind of just like a side gig. That was a way to make like $60 doing a weight loss program or something like that, or a strength training program. But that's not real money. I saw, for example, selling 120 t-shirts my first, 60 days or so, and seeing like real couple grand, which for 15 years old, you're like, this is sick. You know, this is awesome. And shortly thereafter, was finished with the apparel brand, kind of fell out of love with it, continued to wrestle, continued to put time into volunteering. And, you know, I was president of Key Club and things like that. Always had good grades, partied my fucking ass off. That got that stage out of my life really early. So right after kind of like getting that out of my system, I realized really quickly. And what's funny about this is I've talked about this a couple times because people don't have the same experience as I had. And other people are like, why do you talk about this stuff? Isn't that a little too much information? And it's like, my podcast is called Real Talk with Matt Ballard. Like, don't listen to it if you can't hang. But it was really when I did LSD for the first time at 15, where instead of getting like, oh, now I'm some like, you know, stoner / partier who likes to do drugs. Instead, I sobered up. I cut all that shit out of my life. And I said, this is where I need to go. And I cut a bunch of friends off. I realized what my potential was. I saw myself for who I was as a child, who I wanted to be as an adult. And I kind of met that person right in the middle and became very present. And a lot of people don't have that same experience with that stuff, but I did. And thank God for it, because I started that apparel business, ended up starting a supplement company at 17, formulated the product myself, came up with the label, had obviously delegated it to have other people do the label and stuff like that. Moved to Florida with a car full instead of wrestling for college, and just lived down here broke as fuck until I figured it out. And thankfully I found Crunch Hillsboro, worst demographic in the franchise. We only had 8 clubs at the time in our franchise. And we became not only a national record-breaking team, where I took first out of 24 trainers, being the youngest trainer with the most revenue as a personal trainer, but we broke the world record right after that, 4 months after that, sorry. And again, took number 1 out of 24 trainers, and single package, highest single package, highest month, all that stuff. And me and my boss at the time became real close. He's now the VP of the franchise. They have 70 clubs now, and they're buying out clubs left and right. And, you know, they're the number 1 franchise in all of gyms for personal training revenue. So because of that club, that entire franchise has blossomed now to where the CEO of the actual company has come down, bought it out. They did some crazy 9-figure investment into the franchise. And the guy that led me to break those records, it's all credit to him. He's growing the entire franchise now. So he was the person who really taught me a lot. And I have to give credit to him. It wasn't just me, you know, he gave me all the tools I needed. He taught me everything I needed to know to get me to become that kid at 19. And that gave me the confidence to then continue moving up in the company. And now fast forward 5 years, I was with Crunch doing my thing, you know, managing the personal training teams at South Tampa, Channel Side. There was a little hiatus where I went to Vegas, which I have plenty of stories we can get into for Vegas, where I was there for a year right before the COVID lockdowns, doing insurance, but I came right back, got right back into the love, which was fitness. And the person who was my assistant in insurance is now my chef for my meal prep company. And it's the biggest blessing that has ever happened to me. Right after my father died, we started the meal prep company. And I've had all these ideas. I've had all these little businesses, but this is genuinely the actual $1 million idea. So now I live and breathe it. As you know, we have a storefront now in South Tampa that's doing very well. Online, we're doing amazing with no ads. So we're just really getting started in month 18. And towards next year, we're pushing for 600,000-700,000. And again, no investors, no ads. So I'm just trying to figure out how I can capitalize on all these opportunities by doing ground marketing and different digital marketing without ads, and doing partnerships and affiliates and all this kind of stuff before I start to throw money into ads. But that's kind of the rundown of most of it without getting too deep. But the childhood thing, which is what you asked about, I kind of skipped over kind of quickly, but there was a lot of bullshit in that time frame. And that I think just built an angry kid, and that angry kid grew up with a chip on his shoulder, and that chip on my shoulder is why I became, you know, this guy today. So
well, dude, the great thing about this fucking podcast, bro, is we're diving into all that, bro. We're gonna get in, dude, because I like it, man. We're 10 minutes into the podcast, and basically we have an overview of who Matt is. Now I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna break the segments. I'm gonna break it into stuff, and we're gonna get into the nitty gritty, dude. Because Beautiful. Dude, this is sick, man. I'm pumped because obviously, bro, you've already accomplished a lot. You're doing a lot. Like, obviously the goals are there, stuff like that. But we're gonna get into why, right? Because there's always a reason why. And it's fascinating how an individual was created and then is created, because I'm a firm believer,
Right.
man, that we create the person that we want to become, right? And it's
100%.
through the bullshit, through the negativity, through the trials
Yeah.
of persistence,
Yep.
that allow us to keep moving, dude. So I want to talk. I have a couple questions, actually a shit ton of questions about all the information I just got. But first,
Sure.
man, as a child, so both parents were in your life, but they weren't together. They had separate homes?
Right. Yeah. They were together from 14 until 19. So they had me at 18. I
Okay.
even went to prom with my mother in her stomach. So that's how early that was in her life. And it was just a struggle the
Yeah.
entire childhood. It's like a lot of people who grew up in poverty understand this, and a lot of people that I've dated, a lot of my friends, they don't understand what that means. They think, oh, you just grew up poor. Bro, you don't understand what growing up poor means. Now in America, I will say growing up poor is a luxury compared to most countries, right?
Yeah.
So
Of
I'm
course.
completely aware of that, and I always was grateful, and I was always thankful, and always appreciated everything I had to the utmost extent. But going to school embarrassed because your shoes are so fucking old that they have holes in them and you're getting made fun of, going to school at 13 at 210 pounds, wearing a fucking winter coat because you're embarrassed for your fucking tits, like that stuff stays with you for the rest of your life. And that's the single driving force that gets you to the gym when you're fucking tired, and continues to push you when you've already kind of built, for example, a body. We were just talking about nutrition last night on the phone, but when you've kind of already built your body, quote unquote, your dream body, it's not your actual dream body. Once you get there, you're like, I could do this much more. I could do this much more. And you just kind of want more and more for yourself. And it really is out of self-love. But there's also a part of that, which is self-hatred. And I think everybody needs a little bit of that. And if you don't have that, you probably need to be humbled a little bit more, because you have a lot to work on. You don't even realize. And I think I had a lot that humbled me as a kid, that kicked me and kicked me and kicked me, even when I was already down, continued to kick me. And that alone was probably the hardest part of my life, even though all this stuff is very heavy, as running a business, it's very heavy. And sorry, I had to move these notifications out of the way, but that doesn't amount to the amount of pain that childhood was, going through. And not only that, but every direction. It's like between your mother, and between your daycare lady, and between your grandma, and just every person in your immediate circle was screaming in your face and punishing you either verbally or physically. You almost feel like you're trapped. You almost feel like you're worthless, So that I had to build myself. I had to create myself. I had to figure out who the fuck I was, because all I knew was I was just some piece of shit that didn't listen or couldn't pay attention in school, had ADD, and I would get thrown in the office for talking too much or tapping my pencil or whatever the fuck the excuse was. I never fit in. I was always outside of the box, and I always thought that was a bad thing until about 13, 14, when I realized, oh shit, now with wrestling, I'm doing all these crazy things and winning all these tournaments and going to states and all this stuff. And it's like that tension that's always in my shoulders, that tapping that I was always doing, that urge I always naturally had, is the sole reason why I'm fucking all these kids up. And it's the sole reason why I'm starting these businesses without giving a fuck. It's like the biggest negatives in your life, the hardships in your life, are the sole reason why you can go through all these other hardships when it comes to business and when it comes to training and diet and all this kind of stuff. So, I don't hate on it. I always say, like, I feel bad for that kid to this day, but I'm going to make sure, like, he's proud. You know what I'm saying? Like, and the same goes with the future self. I got to make him proud too. So I think about that all the time. The younger self and the future self. Am I making either of them proud? Am I doing what they want me to do? And, Alex Hormozy talks about that. And, if you're not thinking that way, you're directionless. You're just kind of going with the flow, and you have to, if you want to be anybody, you have to have a direction. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. No, that's sick, bro. No, dude, I like that a lot, man. And you said a lot of key gems, because it's the trials and the tribulations and the battles that we go through that are actually fuel for us being successful. But the problem with society, the problem with people, is that they use those and become a victim. It's the victimhood mentality that's always going to, because dude, I interviewed Jay, right? My business partner. And you know what I'm saying? All that he always said,
man.
Yeah. All he was like, yo, I'm grateful. I went through this, but I'm grateful. And that's the key to all successful people, is that they're grateful. They're grateful for the bullshit that they went through. They're grateful for the battles that they've overcome. And they're grateful for the battles we have in our days, because it allows us to become better individuals. And when you take that spotlight and you put it on the gratitude rather than the negative, you're going to go so much further, and you're actually going to learn and grow, and you're going to turn that 100%. tragedy into a positivity.
100%.
Awesome, man. So diving back into your childhood, you said at 14 you moved in with your dad.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there was an issue with the cops at one point where I finally had to defend myself at 13, and that's why I finally got the okay to move in with my father. Yeah.
Okay.
Big, scary, big Matt. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're growing up, you're facing physical abuse, emotional abuse, get bullied at school. I want to talk about your weight. How much did you weigh? You said at 13, 14, how much did you weigh?
189. I remember at the hospital at 12. And I was about 208. I always say 210, but 208 at 13. Yeah.
Which is crazy, bro.
I carried
at 13,
I carried it well, but it was not really. You know what I mean?
I mean, dude, yeah, and a kid like that's So what do you think the cause of your weight gain? Were you eating a lot? Is that how you coped with your stress, your abuse?
100%.
Were you eating a shit ton?
Emotional eating, 100%. That's all I could do, and to be honest, it wasn't eating quality at all. It was actually just eating ramen noodles and eating mac and cheese boxes and whatever we had in the pantry, because my mom wasn't home and I was bored, and I was just eating my pain away. You know what I mean? Eating the pain away of not wanting to go to school the next day, listening to metal music, screaming at me, 12, 13 years old, just listen. Kids thought I was fucking insane. And I'm just like, you have no idea. You know what I mean? And then also with that, I also knew at the same time, a lot of kids that were going through a lot worse. So I was still grateful. I was still like, love my mom, love my dad, love my family. I love the support I have. Like, I was always extremely grateful, but I also knew I was in that bottom tier. I was from the gutter, man. You're a sewer rat. You know you're white trash. You know what you come from when you go to school, and all these kids have brand new clothes every single year, and they're pulling up in the Porsche SUVs and the Mercedes and all this stuff. And it's like, you're bottom tier when you're bottom tier. Pun intended. But you're bottom tier.
Bro.
You're tier 11.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. And that's gonna, dude, no matter how someone's gonna be like, oh, I'm grateful or I'm blessed and see positive things, the fact is, bro, you're gonna be fucking depressed. You're gonna be depressed because, like, face it, your life sucked. You know what I'm saying? And that's the shitty thing about it as a kid, man. I think kids, like, no matter how good your parents are, when they're separated, that affects you. You know what I'm saying? Like, not 100%. having both parents in the household to help raise you and have that. Obviously you're blessed to have them in your life. But man, dude, was your dad aware of all the shit that was going on behind the scenes, when you were living just at your mom's?
He wasn't for a while until that all that happened when I needed to move in. Yeah. There was a point where I ran away too. And when I ran away, and I came back and I saw the reaction of my mother and everybody, it was pretty surreal. It was like, I don't even think they realized what I was going through, but I was just tired of being a punching bag. I was tired of being, getting everything from everybody else's world, taking it out on me. I was tired of it. And I didn't have it in me to kill myself or anything like that. I've had that in my family, and that's a whole other story when it comes to my sister and when it comes to my aunt. But I never, thankfully I was never suicidal, but I did run away. And that was a moment where things did start to change, but then they started to fall back into the old habits. And that's when I finally had to defend myself. And that's when, I had to move. I had to move in with my dad, and thank God for that, because he saved my life in many ways. And he wasn't a big talker. He's Big Matt. He's Matt Senior. I'm the second. He's the first. So he's Big Matt. I'm Little Matt. And he was just a gangster. Slick back hair, gold chain. Everybody afraid of him. Oldest of 7 brothers between the two families, and 3 sisters. And nobody fucked with him. And even he was just emotionless and emotionally unavailable. You know what I mean? Like it was hard to talk to him even as a son. So I grew up with that, and then my mom's the talker. So I got that from her, but I have this perfect mesh of both of them. And that's what, having that hard ass on one side and the talker and the social butterfly on the other side, that's what made me, because if I was just some hard ass that couldn't talk to anybody, well, you're not going to get that far, but if you're
Yeah.
just some social naive butterfly, you're not going to get far either. So it's good to have both. And having both sides of the family, where one was the white picket fence with the 30-year marriage, and they did everything by the book, and they had the college degrees and the private school and all that. And on the other side, which obviously being close to them, I was closer to my father's side, which is more the wild side, doing the four-wheelers, the dirt bikes, both my uncles now being in prison. My aunt committed suicide at 27 back in 2016. And I was closest to her. And then my father got in a car accident and was murdered by a dude who beat up his girlfriend, stole a car, smashed him going 74 from a dead stop in his BMW. So killed him at 43. So yeah, man, it's all deep, dark shit, and I try not to talk about it too much, but that's the thing, right? If you go around talking about your business and, hey, we're making $500,000 a year, we're doing this, we're trying to get to, projection wise, 1.1, 1.2 million by year 3, you have to talk about that stuff. You have to say, look, man, it's never been like this. It was built from the ground up, and it started with fucking exercise. It started with exercise, and it started with God. And that's what I try to preach to people, because I have these conversations with buddies who, I just had one. The reason I even started my podcast, one of my good friends called me. He was having mental health issues, we'll say. And he was like, we were 36 minutes. I remember looking at the phone. We were 36 minutes out of an hour and a half conversation. He goes, why don't you start a podcast, man? I haven't found anything like this online. And I was practically just telling him how to get out of a situation. And it was pretty simple. He fell out of whack. He wasn't exercising. He wasn't dieting. He couldn't speak to his child because he wasn't making enough money to pay the child support. His other girl, his wife, and him were going downhill and talking about divorce and stuff. And I'm like, bro, you need to get to the gym. You need to start with that. And once you start to build that momentum, that domino effect, you'll start to feel a lot better. And so we started doing like weekly calls and checking in on him and doing all that stuff. And I just talked to him a couple of days ago, and I shit you not, he said, I'm back on the horse, baby. I'm back on the horse. And I have an episode where I talk about getting back on the horse. And he sounds amazing. He's working. He's making money. He's doing his side business. Him and his girl are thriving. He's got a relationship with his kid again. I mean, he bounced right the fuck back. And that's really what people need to hear. It's like, how do I get out of the situation I'm in? Because it seems impossible. And no matter how impossible it does feel, you can get out of that shit. You can figure it out. You know what to do, really. You're just not doing it, And I'll just be the one that says, get the fuck up, Go do that thing that you need to be doing,
Yeah, bro. No, I fucking like it, man. The reason I love my podcast, right, is I'm gonna interview tons of successful people, right? And
right,
dude, the fact is, man, when I met you and like even at our event, right, chatting with you, like, dude, you're a solid dude, right? You're fucking jacked. You're a good looking cat.
Thank you, bro.
You're a cool person to be
man.
around. Like, you can look at it, I'm like, all right, this guy's got it, right? But I want to know why the fuck you got it. I want to know the shit that you went through. That's why, like, my podcast and like my interviews is I was like, okay, cool, dude. Like, we'll get in at the end of the podcast about shit. You're killing it. I know your business is killing it. I know it's gonna kill it. And I know when we hop on a podcast in a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, we're both gonna be fucking millionaires. Like, we already know that.
Different situation.
Yeah, but dude, I want to get to know the nitty gritty because I'm like, all right, dude, why is Matt the way that he is? What did he battle and he went through? Because, dude, if you and we went to that event, right, and we were walking around chatting with people, talking to people, shaking hands, doing all that, no one knew, oh, Matt Ballard's dad died. No one knew he was fucking abused as a kid. Nobody knew all that bullshit. But it's like, man, you see the strong individual walking around who's successful that pushes it. But you know what? It gives people that hope that if they can see, like, look, dude, if no matter what you fucking go through, if you turn the lens, you use it as fuel, you're going to succeed, bro. We all have a story
100%.
to tell. We all have a story to tell. We need to tell it, bro. And we need to
100%.
write our own story, man, and not sit on our ass, eating chips, getting fucking fat, and feeling bad for ourselves. Because no one feels sorry for you, bro. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And that's why
nobody's going to save you.
I hate the victimhood mentality, bro. But dude,
Right.
so now, obviously I'm going to let you explain, but now I
Sure.
feel like you started stacking big wins as soon as you moved in with your dad. You started
Yeah.
stacking these fucking wins. Talk to me about that. Talk to me about why you started stacking wins with your dad. Like, what changed?
Well,
You
it's
changed your environment, which is huge, but why and how did you start stacking wins as soon as you just changed environments?
100%. And it's as simple as what's wrong with America right now. We're looking at fatherless households. Fatherless households. Dads aren't there anymore, and it's for various reasons, right? It's because the mom was a psycho. It was because the dad's a lazy piece of shit. There's many reasons why, somebody was caught cheating. Whatever. There's many reasons why there's fatherless households right now. But I think just being around a fucking man, a blue collar, hardworking, factory working son of a bitch who didn't take shit from anybody and demanded respect just by walking in the door. I think that alone is what set the tone for me. And he practically told me, I don't give a fuck what you do as long as you have good grades and you stay out of trouble. And that was the standard. Okay. And I did end up getting into some trouble, and some drinking ish, some drinking tickets and stuff like that, but nothing crazy. But I was also at the same time, I had 3.4, 3.5 GPA with honors classes. I was president of Key Club. I had a business, so I was partying my ass off on the weekends, but at the same time I was grinding like no other throughout the week and stuff. So I balanced it out, and I had a wild family, and I think how I acted is the exact representation of my families, the two different families, right? So really, that's what it showed me. Was on one side I'm collected, I'm calculated, like I do everything by the book, and on the other side I go a little bit wild on the weekend, go party with the boys and throw parties, and our even our prom party was on the news for having 400 people at it and a kid almost dying and shit. So it got a little out of hand at some point, but that's just how it is. It's how it is when you guys are just animals, and I finally I guess put those gloves up, if you will. Retired that version of me a long time ago, but at least I have those memories to where getting to 20, 21, 22, I was very matured, and I really wasn't partying at all. I did some fun, had some fun in Vegas and stuff, but I didn't need that in my life anymore. It was gone. That old version of me was gone, and I was ready to build something. People talk about building an empire and all that, but they don't really specify what that empire is. And you talk about why are you even building it? Why do you even start your business? Why are you building this at all? And it's like, more than anything in the world, I want to be a dad. I want to be a dad, and I want a family, and that's one thing I look for in a woman as well. Mother-like tendencies. If she would be a good mom, if she even wants to be a good mom, or a mom in general. And that's what I want more than anything, is to be a dad, and I will not allow my kid to grow up the way I grew up. That's a huge reason why is that I need to be a father. You know what I mean? It's my purpose in life. I feel like, is to be a dad.
Yeah. No, that's sick, man. That's awesome, bro. Now, let's talk about you move in with your dad, start wrestling.
Yep.
You start powerlifting and training. And then you say that you broke couple world records. Let's talk about, let's talk about your weight training. We're going to go in a lot of stuff. I want to talk about your business as you started. I want to talk about your weightlifting, because, dude, eventually those two things became one. Your weightlifting and your nutrition became your business. Like, so let's talk about your records you broke, and let's talk about, your powerlifting and wrestling experience.
Yeah. So there's age classes and weight classes, right? So they go off of kilos. So there's 13 and 14 and 15 and 16, right? And there's raw, and there's when you're equipped, and you have the bodysuit on, and obviously a belt is raw too. But I mainly just lifted with the belt, no wrist wraps, no elbow sleeves and stuff like that. Completely drug free. I was in multiple drug free federations, and that was my passion. Just because I was a bigger kid, I definitely couldn't have been a bodybuilder. I didn't have the shredded abs and stuff. I was already way too heavy for that. But I just wanted to get stronger for wrestling. My first year I was wrestling heavyweight, and I only weighed about 197. So I lost all the baby fat going in at 215. Got all the way down to 197. And I could send you some photos after this just to show you how crazy, how big these kids were. 260, 255, 250, 6'2", 6'1", 6'3", all within 7th, 8th grade. They're fucking huge. And I was beating them and I was pinning them and I was getting first to these tournaments and people didn't know how the fuck that was happening. So that's how I built a name for myself at the school. People were like, that Matt, like that kid is getting first every, because they would say it on the speakers. And so I remember one time kids in my class were like, is that the 3rd tournament you've won in a row? Because I was so quiet. I didn't even have that many friends at the time. Didn't even know anybody really. And some of the football players were like, bro, you gotta play football. Like, what the fuck are you doing? So I went, played football for a bit, didn't really feel it. I was more of like if I lose, it's my fault. If I win, it's on me. It's all me. I didn't like the team aspect as much, even though with wrestling, you still have that team aspect. But with powerlifting, it was the same concept. It's all me, you know? And so I was doing drug-free powerlifting for multiple federations. And my main lifts were bench and deadlift. To this day, I couldn't even tell you the fucking lifts. I have all of them screenshotted on my phone and stuff. But like I said, I barely talk about these things. I know I was hitting high 4s, you know, at 14 and at 13. I know I was already doing about 415, 420 deadlift. You know, benching in the 300s, 15. So that's where I was raw. Again, drug tested and all that stuff too. And again, it was for wrestling mainly. So when I started to feel my body start to hurt, I stopped. And that's when I stopped around 16, focused on the business, focused on wrestling. And I'm still a powerlifter at heart, you know. I just squatted today actually and felt like a little bitch because of how weak I am to this day. But I tore my hip flexor 2 years ago and my squats have been shit ever since. But deadlifting, all that kind of stuff, it was my first love. So yeah, it just fucked my body up. That was the only negative with that, is it fucked my body up. And then with wrestling, that type of training, you know, out of 6 coaches, 4 of them were cops and 1 was a sheriff. And you know, we were told, you know, no water breaks in a room that was 110 degrees, you know, where the windows were sweating and you couldn't see through them. No water breaks. And you know, running out in the snow and stuff in Illinois, we had this standard that was set where it's like, we will outwork all of these schools that recruit and have all this talent. We will outwork them. And that's what they tried to do to us. And that's why we were, you know, one of the best teams in the state. And yeah, I ended up doing very well in wrestling. It was my first love, but I also accrued a lot of injuries. And because of that, I didn't go to college to wrestle. I didn't want to be a Midwestern wrestler. I wanted to be an entrepreneur in Florida. So that's why I moved to Florida with my supplement company. And that was my driving force, was I want to be an entrepreneur. I don't want to be a wrestler. So that's why I cut all that stuff. And I went the route of, you know, starting the business and moving down here and starting from scratch, you know, living in the ghetto and figuring it out. I ended up living in my car shortly after that, had black mold in my apartment. Month 10, I found out. So I got out of there, lived in my car for 2.5 months, waited to save up some money. I was living on Burger King coupons for a while, doing buy one, get one Whoppers. And that was all I ate that day. And I'd go to LA Fitness and fucking work out for 5 hours and use the shower there and then go to work. Well, once I finally got my savings up, I got myself a place and it started to take off from there. Then I got hired at Crunch. And that's when it kind of took off. So it was really that waiting period of eating tilapia and fucking, you know, ramen noodles and working a job that wasn't even paying me enough to pay my rent and seeing eviction notices at 18 and figuring out how this worked on your own, being 1,200 miles away from your family and not having them to even be able to send you $50 for gas, and just figuring it out from scratch. And the wrestling, the powerlifting, all that stuff built that character that gave me the confidence to say, I'm going to make this work, you know?
Yeah. No, that's sick, man. Let's go down the entrepreneur. Let's go down that. So let's talk about your first business, your second business.
Yeah.
So take me through the businesses you did while in high school up till you moved to Florida. So I want to talk about the mindset, talk about how it made you feel, and like that dope rush, because I started doing door-to-door sales at 14, right? Personally.
Yep.
And I started making some money. And then, dude, I fell in love with it, bro. I'm like, dude, I can do this. And by 15, I was the number 2 rep for newspaper subscriptions in the nation. Ooh, and I'm like, dude, I can sell. And I started making money, bro. You know what I'm saying? I was like, dude, 14 years old, making 15 grand in a couple months. Like, dude, I was like chilling. So, so I understand that rush where you're like, dude, I like making money. It's like, dude, it's sick. Yep. So take me through that, dude. Take me through your feelings and and that joy.
Sure.
Because, bro, I mean, so I want to talk about all your businesses and just like, you know, the momentum you built and like that love, because you built that fucking love for business, and that grind through that.
Yeah, and really it was just a money grab. Yeah, for a while it was just to figure out how to make some money to buy clothes and shit. You know what I mean? So it was really it was money first. That was why I was doing it, and then I realized it was service, and I would listen to like Jordan Belfort, you know, straight line persuasion seminars and stuff like that, and listen to other motivational speakers and other entrepreneurs I looked up to and stuff, and I was doing that self-development stuff that is now a trend, and now that people do, I was doing that, you know, like probably you were as well at 14, 15. And so just taking in all that information, taking in how those people think, you know, while my parents are just grinding away, they don't have a dime to their name, and just figuring out how to break this generational curse. And with the first business, it was Desire Now, Inspire Now. So I made a logo for it. Desire Now, Inspire Now was the fitness consulting. So I put on the back, I put the quote, desire to achieve your goals, inspire others while doing so. And I put Matt Ballard under that. And those shirts sold out like crazy, to family, to friends, people at the school. Obviously donated some shirts because I started to develop a volunteer group with that business. And, you know, that was just a couple grand, you know, making a couple grand in the first couple months, and just being like, okay, I'm selling these plans for like 50 a piece, selling a bunch of plans, doing all this work. This isn't it. This isn't that $1 million idea. So then I started the apparel business, which was the Fusion Fitwear. I made the EF, and I still have clothes to this day of those clothes. And not just family was buying it like crazy, but friends were buying it like crazy. Athletes were buying it. My buddy Cooper just shared a Facebook post from 9 or 10 years ago, and there was like 6 buddies standing there holding each other's shoulders, and one of them had my logo on the chest, and I was showing my chef, and I was like, this was my company, you know. And it was that was the love. That's when I found the love for it. It was after chasing the money and realizing, oh, this is like badass, having my name on shirts and having this like idea on somebody's body, you know, they're wearing my business. And that's when, with the apparel business, I sold like 120 shirts in, you know, I don't know, it was like 45 or 60 days, something like that. And it did well. It did very well, selling them at 25 a pop. And I was selling sports bras, and I was selling leggings. I was getting wholesale apparel from China, putting logos on them. Of course, the logo I made, we were trying different colors. I was doing all that stuff. And that was, again, I was, I think, 15 or 16 at that time, about to turn 16. So that's when that really hit and popped off. But again, I felt like this isn't it. You know, making 3 or 4 grand, 5 grand per month isn't it. That's not the $1 million idea yet. So I kept on grinding through high school, grinding through the wrestling, doing the powerlifting and stuff, and obviously partying my ass off, getting that out of my system. And then 17 hits, and I realized the supplement industry was an industry that I found a love in. And so I formulated my first products, BCAAs, pre-workout, protein. And I worked with Grant Roberts, who was the label designer for Blackstone Labs, Prime Nutrition, Dynamic Muscle, Jason Huge Huh's line, Steel Supplements. He's one of the best label designers in the industry, and worked with him. PJ Braun, actually, the president of Blackstone Labs and many companies, Prime Nutrition and many other businesses he's an investor in. He was doing a Q&A on Periscope. This is unbelievable. I was on the John, and I was watching this dude's Periscope, and just like for 30 fucking minutes watching him answer questions. And I finally just said, I'm looking to start a supplement company in Florida. And I didn't even know if I was moving to Florida or not, but I would just put it into perspective. Like, if I do, this is what I want to do. So I asked him, who would I go through for manufacturing my products? And he was like, hey, Matt, email me at this. I emailed him. He got back to me right away and was like, I'm going to put you in touch with my label designer, Grant. And I was watching their vlogs and stuff. I was watching the day in the life of PJ Braun and all that with Celeste Braun and all that. And, you know, they kind of were showing me how to run a supplement company just by watching all these vlogs. They had like 100 of them, something like that, with like 30 minutes a piece. And so just kind of like, again, taking in this information, taking in the lifestyle and the thought processes of people that already made it, you know, coming from a small town in the middle of nowhere, just being like, I don't know anybody like this. I can't ask my uncle or ask my dad or ask anybody how to make something like that happen or how to start it. They have no idea. So I'm asking the guy that I look up to, and he was kind enough to help me with that. And so he put me in touch with his boy, who manufactures his products. And so we started the supplement line. I started the supplement line, and he helped me with that. And I give all credit to him, because I wouldn't have been able to figure out if it wasn't for that one Periscope day where I asked that question, and he was kind enough to give me that info and put me in touch with those people. So again, just like with the crunch thing, it's like it wasn't even me. It was just the balls to actually do it, the balls to actually take that first step. And so that went well. I moved to Florida with a car full of supplements and clothes and like $400 in my pocket after paying my first month's rent. Moved into the ghetto. used to that from growing up, being the only white kid. And it was fine, had fun, seeing eviction notices every other month, not being able to pay my rent because it was slow season in the job that I had. And I was a waiter working an hour and 10 minutes away in downtown St. Pete, living in North Tampa off of 15th and Fowler. And just figured it out, man. Had black mold and lived in my car, and, selling the whole time, selling my supplements, working out at the gym, making connections, talking to people, grinding, doing MMA and lifting like a motherfucker, getting people's attention and making friendships that way. And that's how I started selling my supplements. I started selling pre-workout and protein practically out of my fucking car, out of my trunk. And it went well. But again, it wasn't the $1 million idea. So I pushed it to the side and found this job with Crunch, grew with them, and really made a name for myself, and I built a good reputation as a coach, and made a lot of connections. We had about 3,000 check-ins a day at this gym. It's, again, one of the biggest gyms in the world. Still to this day, one of the top grossing personal training teams in the world, even including Lifetime and, what's that other one? I forget all the big name gyms nowadays. I only go to Crunch. But yeah, we just shattered these numbers, and that is what put it in perspective. Like, I need to think about this differently. I can't just come out with like a product and just say like, I'm gonna sell 10 grand a month of a product and be a millionaire. That's not how it works. You have to develop a foundation and a structure that you can build a team to have them push it for you, and you kind of just help drive it and guide them with the right direction and lead the way. So obviously going to Vegas and getting in tune with the laptop and the MacBook, and like understanding how to even use a MacBook and learning how to run a business, a real business, being a insurance broker for 30 states, doing life and health insurance, that gave me the tools to start the meal prep company. Because all those other businesses, I didn't have those tools to start the $1 million business. So that you're kind of just figuring out, what do I need to do in the meantime to develop the skills to be this person? Again, going back to the kind of going back and forth with the future self and the past self, trying to make the right decisions. And that's what happened. It was like I had to develop the skills first. And I think a lot of people just try to rush it and try to sell a product and try to become a part of a company or a pyramid scheme that that's not the route they want to go. They think that's the route they want to go because the people at the top are saying, hey, if you do this and you have 10 people under you, you'll be a million, and it's just not how it works, man. Those companies are so saturated. And I knew that. I knew that, and I wouldn't allow myself to get into that headspace of like, okay, I need to be a part of this pyramid scheme. I got offers so many times, people trying to grab my talent, grab my urgency that I had to succeed and use it for the wrong reasons. And I was really, really good at calling people out on their bullshit, not going with the wrong thing. And so I just kind of stayed true to myself on what I knew I needed to do, the route I knew I needed to take, and going with my gut, really. I think a lot of people overlook that intuition, the gut feeling. And I just always went with that, the gut feeling of like, out of these two options, where should I go? And right away, you don't even have to think about it. Your gut tells you right away, this is the route. But then you try to talk yourself out of it and say, what if I do it this way? And always went with the gut feeling every single time. And that's what's got me here,
Yeah, no, of course, man. You gotta follow your heart. You gotta follow that self-belief. Wholeheartedly believe that, man. Now, yeah. So I have a question for you.
For sure.
So I'm reading, Russ, the rapper, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So I'm reading his book right now, and it's fire. And
he's an author?
Yeah, he has a book, bro. It's Get Out of Your Head.
I did not know that. I did not know that. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's fire, dude. It's my level of reading. It's an easy book, bro. You can comprehend it, and dude, it's sick. So while I'm doing my 45 minutes of fasted cardio that my good friend Matt Ballard told me I needed to do before I lift, I read. So I walk on the treadmill and read for, for a portion of that time. And so he talks about being impulsive. And I've really thought
Yeah.
about that, right? I've always been an impulsive person. And the most successful people are always impulsive. And now hearing
Right.
your story where you're like, dude, you grew up, dude, out in the middle of fucking nowhere, a place I've never even been. I don't know what it even fucking looks like, right? And you're like,
Cornfields,
yo,
bro.
yeah, you're like, yo, I'm going to Florida. So
Yep.
my question is, why do you think the most successful people are more naturally impulsive than others?
Going right back to where you started it off with, going back to what your childhood looked like. I think when you grow up in chaos, when you grow up with like, you don't really know when the next, and I mean this literally, you don't really know when the next time you're going to eat is. It might be McDonald's dollar menu like it has been the last few days. It might be mac and cheese tonight with a little ground beef mixed into it. You don't really, like, when you have that mentality growing up with like, I don't even know what's going on. Me and my mother and I have been homeless three times. Three different times we've had to live with different people, and in once we've had to live in the car for a week and a half before my grandma was like, "Yo, you gotta move in," and that is where the impulse comes from. That's where it has to come from. I would say I never had any real foundation, and that's why I can just up and move if I want to, and I've done it many times. Moving to Florida, moving to Vegas, moving back. I don't care. I'll keep doing it if I want to. You know what I mean? It's like I love that stuff. I actually thrive off of that impulse. I enjoy it.
Yeah, no, man, that's interesting to think. That's an interesting perspective. Because like for me, man, I served a mission for my church. Went to Boston for 2 years, and I wouldn't have met, Aaron, who introduced me to Jay. I wouldn't be sitting in the seat if I never served my mission for my church. And
That's
it
awesome,
was
man.
funny because people would always ask me, "Are you nervous?" I'm like, "No." And then it was funny because they dropped me off at the MTC, which is the Missionary Training Center, right? So my mom, dad, and brother dropped me off, and my mom and dad, they're crying. I'm giving them hugs. I grab my bags, and I remember walking, and I turned around and I said, "I'll see you in 2 years, guys." And I remember I didn't cry. I didn't look back. Once I turned my bags and I saw, those doors, I had my high school basketball duffel bag, and then I had a big roller bag, and that was what I had for 2 years.
That's
And
awesome.
and I was off, and I remember I'm like, I see people crying, people are all depressed, people are all
Yeah.
this, and I was just like, this is what I'm doing, and I'm ready to roll. Let's get it done. And then after my mission, I sold pest control. I'd move some new place, live there for the summer, and then go back home and chill in the winter in Utah. And so I sold in San Diego. I sold in
Is that where you're
Dallas.
from?
Yeah,
You're from Utah?
yeah, from Salt Lake,
Oh,
West
that's a
Jordan.
beautiful place. That's a fucking beautiful place, man.
Yeah, bro. And so so literally San Diego, Nashville, Dallas, Tampa. Like I never had a problem um, ever living somewhere new and getting here. And I want to talk to the listener out there, man. Like two things that I picked up from this conversation. Number one, what Matt said is follow your fucking gut. Your gut is going to lead you right, and it's going to get you to where you need to be. And two, you got to be fucking impulsive. Russ talks about pull the trigger, pull the motherfucking trigger, and jump off the cliff. Because if you
Yeah.
don't, you're going to die on your deathbed with the what ifs, and the what ifs,
Yep.
man, are going to kill you more than pulling the trigger and getting shit done.
For sure. Yep. What kind of
Yeah,
pain do you
man.
want to go
So
through? The pain of regret or the pain of doing what you know you need to do to get to success, but it sucks the whole time. You and I can both say how bad success hurts. It fucking hurts, man. Sleeping on air mattresses and grinding and sometimes not having a place to live because you're putting all your money into your business. And we both know how that feels. We've both done that, been there and fucking done that. And the people that are trying to become like this, are scared to do those things. And that's why they haven't made that jump. Steve Harvey says, when it comes to faith, whether you believe in God or not, you don't even, that it's really irrelevant. Once you jump, the parachute will come out. You might hit the cliff multiple times. You might get a bunch of bumps and scrapes, and and you might get fucked up a little bit on the way down, but the parachute will come out, and the view that you get soaring. I've went skydiving. I don't know if you've went skydiving. It's a thrilling feeling, but once that it's fucking terrifying when you jump out of the plane, bro. You jump out of the plane and you're above the clouds. You jump, you get through the clouds, and you can't even hear or breathe for 5 seconds, and all of a sudden it's just, and it's just like overwhelming sensation, and you're terrified. At least in my experience, my first time, I was terrified. And then as soon as the parachute comes out, it's the most beautiful sight and feeling I've ever experienced in my life. And that's exactly what business is like. And I guess I wouldn't say I'm successful, but you could say success is like, is that feeling, is like, that sucked so fucking bad until it didn't anymore, you know?
Yeah. And bro, you're successful, bro. And success is measured in many different ways and many different avenues. And the fact is, we are successful, and we're going to become more successful. It's the journey of success and never being satisfied. Now, dude, let's take it here, bro. You started selling supplements, living in your car, homeless, going back and forth. Now, finally, you move over to Crunch. Now, talk me through the Crunch, bro. Talk about starting and then becoming, like, people don't know this, bro. You were literally the number one trainer. Like,
yeah.
Like, this wasn't like, yeah, you were a trainer. You were the number one fucking trainer. So talk to me about your experience in Crunch. How long were you there? What it took, what you were doing that was different to become that number one trainer, and how that affected into, I mean, obviously who you are today.
Well, the team was, I remember going in for my first day fucking terrified. I had never worked in a gym before. I did Desire Now Inspire Now, which is online, but I had never worked in a gym before as a trainer. I wasn't even certified. He bought my certification, and I quickly exam crammed and got it done, knowing that I had experience, knowing that I knew what the fuck I was doing, knowing that I had a lot of accolades that I could say, like, hey, I've done this, this, and this, but I really didn't know what I was doing, and I had to learn all that stuff while I was selling myself on $600 a month, $800 a month training programs. And so I think just being in the, like you said, like with door-to-door stuff, and trying to, and being like face-to-face with somebody and having to deal with rejection and figure out how to not get rejected again. It was going through a lot of that for a while. I was there 2.5 years at that one club, a little less, before getting promoted over to South Tampa Crunch. And we broke that record about a year and 3 months in. So it was fairly quick. But I remember going in the first day terrified, because I remember the whole team, the females and the guys, were all studs. I mean, the women were beautiful, jacked and beautiful in mid-20s, and I was so intimidated. I never got intimidated in wrestling. I don't care how big the dude was. I don't care how big the stage was, 2,000 people watching one mat. I never got intimidated, but I was fucking intimidated going in there, and that was my driving force. That's why I continued to educate and learn as quickly as possible, and tried to compete with myself on, like, okay, I sold 5,000 in personal training this month. I want to go for 7. And I had long hair down to my shoulders, and my boss was bald. So he was like, I bet you have to cut your hair if you don't get 10 grand next month. And nobody was getting 10 grand. Nobody had gotten 10 grand. And I said, I'll try, I'll do my best. And we shook on it. And I got like 8,900. So I cut my hair just similar to this. And the following month I got 12 grand. So it was just, getting challenged by him, and him seeing what was, again, I have to give credit to him seeing what I had and knowing my background. Bro, this is what's fucking crazy. This is how crazy God works. I was on the Stairmaster doing cardio, similar to you, fasted cardio, Sunday morning. Nobody was in the gym. And I saw they were hiring janitors, front desk, and trainers and stuff. So I went up to the front desk needing a job. I had just gotten through the 3rd interview of a job that I really needed. It would have changed my whole life. I would finally be out of the hole I was in. And they told me they went with somebody else. For 10 seconds, I felt like shit. The 11th second, I was like, it'll be okay. I had this overwhelming feeling of it'll be okay. Went to the gym 2 days later, maybe a day later. It was right away. I went to the gym the next day, and I saw that ad on the TV. And I went up to the front desk, and they said, you need to go talk to that bald guy back there. I went up to him. We started chatting. I told him a little bit about my accomplishments. And he was like, you want to be a trainer? And I was like, I'm not certified. And he was like, I'll pay for it for you. And I was like, sure. And in that conversation, I found out that, one, we were from the same state. We were both from Illinois. We both loved MMA, and we both had the same fucking birthday, to a 10-year difference. Him being December 28th, 1987, and mine was December 28th, 1997. I mean, if that wasn't meant to be, I don't know what the fuck was. And what the only thing I can compare that to is when I walked into my storefront when I was buying out NutriFit spot in South Tampa next to Radiant Church, which is actually my church. I walk in with an old company t-shirt that I used to work for 4 months, short period of time. I worked for this company, and it said, "We rise by lifting others." I still wear it. And I walk in, we're having a conversation, and she reads my shirt and she turns around, and I still have this sign up to this day. She turns around and points at the sign, and it says, "We rise by lifting others," right in the middle of her fucking bar. And that was the second moment that I was like, this is destiny. You know, this was meant to be. So that's why I cared so much. That's why I was so, you know, a lot of these other trainers, they were going to med school. They had other things they wanted to do, physical therapy. Like, it was a stepping stone for them, but it wasn't their whole life. And this to me was life changing. And I took it, and I obviously took it, and I appreciated everything that he gave me, knowledge, paying for my certification, becoming a friend of mine, a brother of mine, and taking me in under his wing, being the youngest on the team, but challenging me harder than everybody else. And, you know, I have to give credit to him for that, because I wouldn't be this person and I wouldn't have been that person without him being like, this kid's got something. And that goes back to the faith thing, the religion thing. It's like, well, what if I would have got that other job that I was on my fucking knees praying to God for? I remember being on my fucking knees in my patio because I couldn't afford to make my rent payment, praying for this job, and they told me they went with somebody else. This is back, bro, I was 19. You know what I mean? I was a kid, and I was trying to figure out how to live on my own, you know, just got this apartment after being homeless, and I didn't want to lose it. And so it was just so surreal. Every day was fight or flight, no matter what. Some days were just great. Some days were just hell, and fighting that battle every single day, and then finally getting this opportunity. That's why I took it so seriously. To answer your question on like what got you to that point where you were number one, that's what it was. It was that fire under my ass from being dead fucking broke, being the youngest on the team, being intimidated, being the only person that probably felt like they weren't qualified, meeting this guy who I was destined to meet, and still have a relationship with to this day. So that's why, for sure.
Yeah. No, that's sick, man. One thing that it like really resonates with me is you have to, I mean, you have to rise to the occasion, right? Tom Brady, you know, talks about, you know, he was a 6th-round pick, and the quarterback got hurt, and he got put in the game. And he said,
199th. Yeah.
Yeah. He said, you may get one opportunity in your life.
Mm-hmm.
Don't fuck it up. And you need to rise to the occasion. And you know what I'm saying? You were young, intimidated, didn't really know, you know, you were figuring it out, but being able to rise to the occasion when you are put in any situation, whether it's a new position at a job, whether it's something completely new that you've never been through, or a new battle in life, you need to rise to the fucking occasion. You need to step the fuck up. You need to man up, and you need to be like, let's fucking take this and let's go. Because if you rise up to the occasion, it's going to change your life forever. Tom Brady,
100%.
how many rings has he got? You know, and now he's the greatest of all time, right? The best quarterback to ever touch a fucking football. Moved down to Tampa Bay. Everyone's like, oh, dude, you know, you're not. It's a new system, new coach, new everything. He only won because of Bill Belichick. Well, then he comes out and fucking wins a Super Bowl for the Buccaneers. And
at home.
Yeah.
At fucking home. The same year we win the Stanley Cup, the same year we got second, you know, runner up at the World Series, same year the Rowdies got first in soccer. I mean, that was a year where Tampa blew the fuck up. You know what I mean? It was a great year.
Yeah, dude. And you know what I'm saying? So we need to rise to the occasion as human beings. When we are put in any situation that's uncomfortable, we need to step up, put on our big boy pants, and show the fuck up. Now, dude, that's sick. Now, I'm going to brush over. You went to Vegas to sell insurance and moved back. But I want to talk about what you're doing now, dude. I want to talk about your business now, because obviously, you know, it's your meal planning. I want to talk about what initiated that, how you got into that, and how you keep growing that. Because, dude, you're doing very well. You've built it with nothing. You're not really spending money on marketing, and you're continuing to grow this meal planning company, bro. And it's doing well, and I think it's going to continue to blow up, dude. So talk to me about what you're doing now and how that, you know, and how that got inspired.
Yeah, honestly, what's really ironic about this is I can't cook. I can't cook for shit. I hate cooking. So I went to my old assistant to make my meals, and I was personal training as the manager over at the channel side Crunch. Love that gym. You know, next door, I'd walk to work every day. I fucking loved it. And it was right after my dad died. I went back. The same guy who's now the VP of the company called me and was like, "Hey, you need to come back to work. I know you're working from home, but you need to get out." He was one of the only people that actually reached out to me and tried to help me. Didn't just say, "I'm sending my condolences." He was like, "Yo, come back to work." So I listened. I was like, okay. I was sleeping in until 11 every day, you know, smoking pot and making all my money from crypto and sports betting. And I was making good money. I was making 6-7 grand a month, but that's not who I wanted to be. I fell off. That's not at all who I wanted to be. I was lifting and stuff, but I was lost. And my dad dying was the single, you know, one of the best things that ever happened to me, as sad as that is to say. And went back to work, found my passion again, found that fire under my ass again. And, you know, I was like, I got to do something else. I can't just be a personal training manager. You know, at the time I was 23, and I was like, if I continue down this path, I'm going to be a personal training manager, which, by the way, bro, we were making anywhere between 9 to 13K a month as a personal training manager, working in a gym, you know, beautiful females, guys that are jacked, just like just this atmosphere was it was, you couldn't compare it to anything else unless you lived it. And it was everybody else's dream job when it comes to the fitness industry. I knew I was meant for more. And, I felt this pull to start something. My entrepreneurship, part of my brain was like, yo, let's start something. Let's do something. So I went to my chef now, just to make my own meals, because I hate cooking, hate prepping. I hate doing all that shit. And I've never even worked in a kitchen or promoted food or anything like that. It was completely out of my wheelhouse. But what happened was my clients were like, who do you go through for meal prep? And I was like, to be honest, they all fucking suck. All of them. You name it. They all suck. They either taste great, but they're $17 a meal, or they taste like shit and they're $17 a meal, or, you know, they taste okay, but the portion sizes are too damn small and the protein's too low and the macros are off. So I wanted to meet that in the middle and find that gray area where we had high protein, good portions, you know, great prices, a better business overall than these other businesses, these other meal prep guys who are monsters in the space, who are vacuum sealing everything. I wanted it to be all fresh and in containers, and also the look of it. When it comes to vacuum sealing, it ruins the look, you know, and people would come in and give us free meals, and I won't name the companies because the companies I'm talking about, I'm friends with the owners, but we'd get their meals and they all sucked. We would all throw them away. We'd try them and we'd throw them away. Dude, I'm a fat kid, bro. I eat whatever the fuck I want. I'm 235 pounds. I eat everything that's in front of me. You know, I don't throw food away, and I was throwing food away, free food. So that's when I realized that the industry needed help. And that's when I came in and said, okay, my chef is now doing 5 of my clients and myself, making 2-3 grand a month as a side gig. I'm going to make this a business. I made the logo, made the website, filed the LLC, got the kitchen, got it inspected, all within a week. We were launched. We were live. Now, there was a lot of issues that arose, right? I had 3 different websites in 90 days. I had 3 different kitchens in 6 months. I have friends who have had businesses in the space who have had 1 kitchen for 6 years. We've dealt with so many fucking issues between cooling space and space to package our meals and delivery issues. Dude, I'll use one example that I remember vividly to sum up the first 9 months of the business, where it was just my chef and I was helping her in the kitchen, of course, but I was working a full-time job as a personal training manager, and I had the most clients on the team. And obviously that was an ego thing. I wanted to make sure not only was I getting my base and my bonus, but I was making the most fucking money as well, keeping my name at the top. Again, ego, you know, and I got humbled many times with the business that I started, where I was working 6 days a week. Right after work, I'd go to the kitchen. I'd work until 1 a.m, 2 a.m, go home, wake up at 6 a.m, have 32 deliveries that I had to do by myself in a fucking Mustang. Mustangs are tiny. There's no space in that. So I'm taking 12 deliveries with the car full. I still have pictures to this day of this car completely full, running out of ice packs, running out of bags. The amount of breaking containers, just so many fucking issues that we had, and figuring these things out every single week, and also dealing with the customer service, also dealing with people going out of town and wanting to skip, and also dealing with billing, and also dealing with marketing, and also having a full-time job. managing 22 trainers under me and also having the most clients out of all these fucking trainers. And I know that sounds braggadocious, but that's just where I was. That's what was happening in my life. And it was hard to juggle. So I ended up going full time with the business. And there was a point where the third website, what happened was I launched the website June of 2022. Now, everybody who in this country that went through the lockdown, they all know that we couldn't go anywhere 2020, 2021. We couldn't do anything in the summer until 2022. All the restrictions were uplifted and now people could travel. So all my friends that were buying from me, because that's really who it was. It was my friends, it was my clients and stuff. They were all traveling. So I went from having, 22, 23 clients doing 300, 400 meals a week to going to one single customer. I'm not kidding. One single customer the week that we launched and nobody re-signing up. And it wasn't because of the quality. It was because they were going to sign up in a couple weeks. I'll sign up next week. I'll sign up when I get back from Europe. I'll sign up. They were all my friends. So they were okay with, hey, I'm just going to sign up at a later time. So what the blessing in that was, I had to figure out how to grow a business. I couldn't just sell to my friends and clients anymore. I had to actually figure out how to grow a meal prep company. So learning how to market this thing and developing all those skills, again, talking about skills, I had to do a lot of courses. I had to figure out what the fuck I was going to do, because now I put 22 grand into this thing. Now it's launched. Now I have employees. Now I have to, my chef, she had 2 6-figure jobs lined up working as bartenders in these nice ass fine dining restaurants, gave them both up to do this with me. And I watched her work from 12 p.m. to 6 a.m., barely taking any breaks. And I'm dead serious. 12 p.m. to 6 a.m. doing all of this with just me helping her, but mainly doing it all herself. Me having to go to bed at 5, wake up at 7 on 2 hours of sleep and go deliver until 5 p.m. That happened a lot. That was every fucking weekend for a long period of time. And people don't see that side, and I still have videos where I'm out doing 1,200, 1,500 flyers in the heat, doing ground marketing and putting our name out there on doors and doing things that other meal prep companies weren't, because I knew it would hit. I knew that. I just had this conversation actually about marketing, and people said, "Do you really think flyers work?" And I said, "I know they work. I'll put 200, for example, I'll do 200 bucks, I'll do 50 a week. So $10 a day for 5 days a week. And I've done marketing. I've tried marketing. I've done this stuff, and I've tested ads, and I've tested, certain ads that I made on Canva and certain pictures and certain codes and certain different things. And I always tested these, and they never really worked on Instagram. And so, of course, over time, I figured out how to really do Instagram ads. And of course, I got a return, but the return was so minimal that I really just focused on the ground marketing. And I did 22,000 flyers in just a couple months, again, with a full-time job. And again, with, working 7 days a week. And the flyers actually had a really good return. I would do a building of 400 units and I'd get 2 or 3 sales immediate. 400 views on Instagram, you're not getting a single sale. 4,000 views on Instagram, you're only getting 20 website tabs on some of these ads or some of these pictures that I was posting as an ad. So really, I had to figure all this shit out. Shit had to hit the fan. I had to go through this and then this to figure out how to bring it back up. So again, with all that stuff, it was all a blessing. And just like with my dad dying, it was one of the worst and the best things that could have happened to me was when my business went like this and went straight down like this when we launched that third website. So forgot what you asked me, but that was really the beginning. The first 6 to 8 months was just grinding is not even the right word. Sacrificing isn't even the right word. Doing the fucking impossible was practically the right way to put it. Doing what her and I would never do ever again, but we did it. We got through it. And if we had to do it again, we would, realistically. But if you had to choose, if you were looking at it in the face saying, this is what I have to go through to do it, probably wouldn't do it. But because we took the step and we took the leap and we hit the cliffs and we got all the bumps and bruises and scrapes and the parachute actually came out, well, we felt that feeling of, bliss, or the dopamine release of now having 4 or 5K a week or whatever in meal prep revenue with the 65% margin at the time. And that's what drove us to continue is getting through that and then seeing the light at the end of the tunnel and then finally getting through it,
Yeah, man. No, that's sick, dude, because it makes me laugh, bro, because I think about all the stuff Jay and I have gone through.
I know. Yeah. We've talked about it. Yeah.
Yeah, to build our business, man. And it's like, it's kind of crazy, but one thing that resonated with me, man, is it's a no option mentality. Meaning, we're all in, bro. and there's no option for failure. It's success and success only. And that's what people don't understand, bro, is you need to literally keep going. Like, dude, there's no, like, bro, I need to retire my parents, and I'm going to retire my parents. Like, there's no me calling my dad and saying, "Hey, dad, my business failed. I'm going under. Sorry."
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
that's not happening, bro. Even when I'm not going to get into the crazy things until I write my book about all the stuff we've gone through. But man, we've been deep.
We don't have
bro.
to. I already know. I know a lot of them, and John
Yeah.
shared them with me, and even we've talked about it. But it's incredible, man.
Yeah.
It's part of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
As sad as it is to say, it is part of it, and it's the
Yeah.
like Alex Hormozy says. It's like, if this is what it takes, it's the shift in the mentality, right? It's like, oh, poor me, I have to go through this. It's like, well, what if you thought of it as in, this is the price you have to pay to succeed? Well, then that's the price I'm willing to pay. Then now you accept
Yeah.
it. Now you're living it. Now you're okay with it, because it's like, this is just the price I'm willing to pay. This is the price I have to pay to get to that next level, you know?
Yeah. No, and one thing, bro, I loved the overview of this entire podcast, man, of what you've talked. And I appreciate you hopping in, man. We'll close up here, but like your whole life, man, is very inspiring to hear, man. I really appreciate you opening up and telling me. But like, there's one thing that comes to mind, and it's gratitude and outlook. Period. Gratitude and outlook. That when you have gratitude for everything that you've gone through in your life, and you have the positive outlook that, man, it's going to be okay, and you look back and you're like, it's only made me better, it changes your whole perspective in life. And if I can give one person, advice out there, that just take a step back, it's okay, it's going to be okay, everything happens for a reason, and as long as you have faith, and as long as you keep going forward, man, and don't become a victim, it's going to make you into the person that you're supposed to be, and you're going to succeed from these issues. So in closing, man, I just want to appreciate, and express my gratitude.
But yeah, I think the main thing is, the most important part about all of this, trying to get to the next level and trying to succeed, is just not giving up. And a lot of people do give up fairly quickly. A lot of people would have given up in that place that they were in, if they were doing the deliveries on 2 hours of sleep and already worked all week, 12 to 14 hours a day. They would have given up already. And, that's the sole reason why I'm here and I got to this point. That's the sole reason why you're here and got to this point. We just didn't give up. We were willing to sleep on the air mattresses. We were willing to move across the country. We were willing to go with our gut and to go on impulse and, do things that other people aren't willing to do. And that's exactly why there's a 1%, and that's why I'm here, and that's why you're here. And the people that are listening that are hesitant to take that leap, to take that next step, as soon as they stop hesitating, they'll be at this level. As soon as they stop thinking about it, they'll be at this level. As soon as you start to do it instead of thinking about it, you'll learn as you go, and you'll realize all the things that you don't know, you'll learn. It's just about getting your feet wet, jumping into the fire, and figuring out how to get out of it immediately. And that's all entrepreneurship is, and that's all running a business is.
Yeah. No, absolutely, man. Never give up, dude. Keep going, keep striving, and become the best person that you're going to become. Because you have one life to live and one story to write.